There was a lot of fear that was tied up in the what ifs and the future and how am I going to make this all work? Because literally overnight, all of my sponsors, all of my partners, all of the funding agencies pulled out. And I was going deeper and deeper into a line of credit into debt. And so I was asking everybody I knew, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? And one day I took that question to my business coach, Lisa Marie Platsky, and I asked her, what am I supposed to do? But when I really listened and really went inward to understand what I want, then I realized actually I had lost my passion for this business years ago. But it was that fear of letting go of what I knew, that fear of not knowing what else I could do that kept me clinging to it like a life raft. That was the beginning, and that was the origin story, if you will, that got me on this path of really looking inward.
Hey everyone, it's Sophia from Sacred You. Thank you so much for being here. A quick message before we dive into today's conversation. You may have been watching the podcast videos, but have not had a chance to hit that subscribe button. So if you have ever gained value from our videos, from our conversations, it would mean so much to us if you would hit that subscribe button below right now, or even just give us a like. And what that means is not only does it allow us to grow our subscriber base, but it allows us to bring in more important guests for you to listen to. And you will be one of the first ones to be notified. So please hit that subscribe button and let's get started on today's conversation.
Welcome to Pathways to Wellbeing, presented by Sacred You, a global community empowering women everywhere. My name is Helen Prince, and today I have the pleasure of introducing Anita Adams. Welcome, Anita.
Thank you so much for having me here, Helen. It's such a delight to be on your show.
You're very welcome. Now, Anita is a life coach, a life and leadership coach. She is a speaker, retreat leader, podcast host. She is also the author of the best-selling book, Whispers of the Soul, a guide to clarity, confidence, and joy. And who doesn't want more of all of those things? And Anita is also the creator and teacher of the Wisdom Way method. And let's start there, Anita. What is the Wisdom Way method? If you could sum it up, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into it, but sum it up for me.
Yeah, for sure. Would it be okay if I actually share a little story with what led me to creation of the Wisdom Way? Okay, awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I used to be the founder and executive director of a national arts organization that promoted Canadian film and talent. And then the pandemic hit, and like many organizations and many people, I got hit really hard with this pandemic, and it sent me and my business into a bit of a tailspin. And there was a lot of fear that was tied up in the what ifs and the future and how am I going to make this all work? Because literally overnight, all of my sponsors, all of my partners, all of the funding agencies pulled out, and I was going deeper and deeper into a line of credit into debt. And it was scary. It was really scary. And it wasn't just the fear around what was happening in the world, which was momentum enough. It was also this fear of my loss of identity, this sense of loss about who am I? And who am I if I'm not the executive director of this organization? And it just caused so much intense fear for me. And so I was asking everybody I knew, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? And one day I took that question to my business coach, Lisa Marie Platsky, and I asked her, what am I supposed to do? And she asked me one simple question in return. What do you typically do when you feel stressed? And I said, I usually go for a walk in the woods. She's like, perfect. This is what you're going to do, Anita. Every day for the next 30 days, you are going to go for a walk in the woods. And I'm like, what? I can't do that. And in my mind, I'm thinking, what kind of business coach tells her clients to go for a walk in the woods? I need business advice, not nature therapy. She managed to get a commitment out of me. And she said, just be in the listening when you're out. I didn't really get that, but whatever. Just I'm out walking in the woods and every day down to the forest. And I was demanding of God, the universe, the squirrels, what am I supposed to do? But slowly over the course of a few weeks, I started to calm down. I started to get really grounded and connected with my environment and feeling grateful for this beautiful space that I'm in, and even grateful to Lisa Marie, my business coach, for sending me on this challenge. And in this space of gratitude and feeling calmer and more connected to the environment, I asked that question again. And it was my voice bubbling up from within, but it was almost like an older, wiser version of me. And she simply asked, what do you want to do? And I didn't miss a beat. What do you mean, what do I want to do? What am I supposed to do? No, Anita, what do you want to do? I don't know. I don't know. Yes, you do. And that stumped me. That really stumped me. Do I know what I no. And later that day, I found myself in a bookstore, clearly looking for answers still. And this one book caught my eye. It was Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And I pulled it off the shelf and I flip it open. And this one line, it just felt like it leapt out at me. And it simply said, frustration and anxiety come from not listening to the soul. And I realized I'm not listening to my soul. So I went back into the forest and I started asking it that new question. What is it that I want? And then I started to listen, like really listen, as my business coach advised me to do in the first place. And the answers, they didn't come right away because I was so preoccupied still. And yeah, but they did come. They did start to come. And when I listened, the first thing I got was that I actually wanted to close my business. And I pushed back on that as well. What? Don't I want to find a way to save my business? I've been doing it for almost 2 decades. I must want to save it. But when I really listened and really went inward to understand what I want, then I realized actually I had lost my passion for this business years ago. But it was that fear of letting go of what I knew, that fear of not knowing what else I could do that kept me clinging to it like a life raft. That was the beginning. That was the origin story, if you will, that got me on this path of really looking inward. And I understood there's like 3 pillars to what I've now created, the Wisdom Way method to finding clarity, confidence, and joy. And it starts with that inward looking journey, like asking yourself those important questions. And I believe there are 3 really important questions we need to come back to again and again. And it's the first one is, who am I? The second one is, what is it that I want? What do I really want? Not what my partner wants from me, not what my society tells me I should be, but what do I want? And the third thing is to learn. So we're looking, pardon me, I jumped there. So look, listen, learn. So the first is to look inward and ask those 3 questions. And then when you ask those questions, then you got to really sit in the listening. So you're in the inquiry and you're listening to what bubbles up. And what's key there is to listen without judgment. Because when you listen, you're gonna hear your soul voice, God, spirit, speaking to you about who you really are and your potential. And that can be scary, right? And then
Absolutely.
the third and final piece to that is to learn. So look, listen, learn what you must do to be the person you were born to be. Oh, that's the Wisdom Way method.
That's so beautiful. And I love that story. And I have so many questions.
Bring it on. We
So,
can go off. Yeah.
and your journey is the typical journey, isn't it? Like we hear these things and then we go on and on and we push against it and we keep trying to fix what's not working. So there's this constant push against, and that I think creates even more frustration and more feeling lost. So my first question is, the people who come to you, are they typically feeling lost, or what's going on for them?
Yeah, the word I would use is actually stuck. They're feeling stuck. And why they're feeling stuck is because they're often out of alignment with who they really are, because they are told who they're supposed to be. And we're being told all the time who we're supposed to be. If it's not coming from parents or partners, it's coming from the media. There's this definition of who, and particularly women, I think, oh my gosh, we have it. We've got the labels that we have to live up to and we have to be a certain way. And if we're feeling stuck or uncertain or fearful, it's often because of that sense of feeling we need to be something that we're not or act in a way that we're not. And then when we stop that and we go inward and listen to who we really are and what we really want, it will often be very different than what everybody else is telling us or what we think we should be. And that's really scary. So that then keeps people, there's almost like a couple levels of stuckness. The first stuckness is the unaware. You're not aware of that being out of alignment. You just feel you should be and a certain way. You should be doing certain things, and it just feels you're unmotivated or it's hard or whatever. And then the next layer of stuckness is when you've got clarity about the direction you really want to go, but it scares the hell out of you. And it feels too big. Like even with the work I'm doing now, when I got the clear message that what is mine to do and what I really want to do is be teaching people how to connect with nature and with their higher selves so they can step into the best version of who they are. But when I got that hit, if you will, it felt too big for me. And I'm like, that inner critic came in, and who are you to teach anybody anything, right? Wanted to push me down. And I listened to that for a long time before I finally found the courage to step in to the role I am in today. And then writing my book, Whispers of the Soul, was another big piece of that. Is this really scary? But it feels
Absolutely.
right.
And this is the thing, we let so much of our fear, and it's like you were saying, it's more the fear of the unknown, because what's that saying? Better the devil. And we know that we're not happy how we are.
Mm.
However, it's familiar, and there is comfort's not the right word, but you know what I'm saying. It's like we know that, and yes, it's not very nice. However, out there, and these things that are perhaps we perceive them to be unconventional and not what society will accept. That's way too scary. So this
Yeah.
year where I don't like that, yeah, and it's uncomfortable and it's that is so I get that. And I think so many women, especially because it's not just society putting these labels. We put the labels on ourselves and then we perpetuate the labels. So how do you help? Because I imagine everyone, we're not as unique as we think we are, Anita. We all have the same fears. We all have the same insecurities. They just might look a little bit different. They show up a little bit different, but we all have the same things. So I imagine that a large part of your program is helping people to get through that and pass through that discomfort, pass through that. How do you help them do that?
Yeah, great question. It's so different for each person that I'm working with. In many cases, it's really just holding the mirror up for people to be able to reflect back to them what they're saying so they can hear and create the awareness of what their own obstacles are. Most of the time, 90% of the time, we're in our own way and we don't even know it, right?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
just simply helping people to see what their limiting beliefs are that may be holding them back. And then working little micro steps to create a new belief system. And a big part of that, Helen, is about that spiritual practice, having a spiritual practice, whatever that may look like for you. And it's the work I do. I do bring God into my work. I don't preach a particular religion. I am very spiritual in my work. And I strongly believe that when we do not have that strong spiritual grounding and presence and practice, that it's much easier to step out of alignment with our values, with who we are, what's important to us. And when we're out of alignment in one area, then it affects all the areas. So there are really 7 areas of well-being. That's the model that I work with, is find that well-being in all areas. And I believe it starts with developing a strong spiritual foundation. And
Yeah.
for me and many of my clients, that can be as simple as just getting out into nature, because that is making time for yourself. It's sacred time for yourself to connect with your natural environment so you can connect and get present to the here and now, and connect with your higher self, with God, with the universe, with source, whatever your word is for that. And then we go from there. But having that spiritual practice is key. And I want to work with spiritually minded people. It's important that you have that openness and willingness to dive into your spiritual being in order to create the
Yeah,
space and work. Yeah.
exactly. Because spirituality and religion, they're different
Very
things,
different.
you know.
Yeah.
It's for me, it's just knowing that there is something bigger than me. There's
Yeah.
something bigger than just my family. There's this something that connects us across the world, that we're
Yeah.
all connected in some way and connected to nature. So that it's like the bigger sense of belonging, and being able to
Yes.
tap into that, I think helps you stop looking, it helps me stop looking so much inward as well. It turns my direction outwards so that I can see that it's not all about me. The world doesn't revolve around me. There are other factors involved in this. And yeah, knowing that is, I find it quite comforting, knowing that there is a bigger, something bigger
Yeah.
moving everyone along.
I hear what you're saying. And I actually encourage people to really go inward and stop being so outward looking. We're
Yes.
talking we're talking about 2 different things, really. You're talking about really being aware and compassionate for the world around us, and inclusive, and the
It's that greater
understanding,
connection
the
with
greater
other
connection.
people.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I would argue that starts by going inward to find your truth in who you are and connecting to that source inward.
Well, you have to
And then,
start with you. Everything starts with you, does so that's
yeah,
exactly right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, so good. So
And
good.
I love what you talk about as well. It's because there's a lot, we're born with a natural intuition. And then somewhere along the journey, or it doesn't just happen in one time, it piles up, doesn't it? It gets covered up, or it gets hidden, or we stop trusting it. What's your take on that? And how do you get people to come back to them? This is what you started to talk about. So how do you get them to come back to connecting with themselves and trusting that voice?
Yeah, such a great question. It's so true, isn't it? And I know I've experienced that, where I've been belittled when I've talked about intuition or my gut, or even as a child. And in fact, that's where it starts as a child, is that the feeling based is pushed away. And for me, I grew up with a stepfather, who was emotionally abusive and belittled me every opportunity he could. And talked about me having a pea-sized brain. You just got to use your pea-sized brain, that sort of thing. And this is in working with other women in the work I do. I'm discovering that's actually quite common for a parent or authority figure to make you feel small and insignificant and stupid, and that you have to use your brain, and intuition is not using your brain. And so you feel like if you're going to be smart, you got to use your brain, and discard the feeling base of intuition. And wow, like that's so wrong. We got to use both, right? We can't just go with our gut all the time. We got to listen to what's happening and then bring in our brain to decide what is the right course of action for us. And the more we learn to trust that inner voice of wisdom, the more the brain and the intuition, I believe, partner. And that feels comforting too, when you've got that partnership happening between the two. So, how do you develop that? How do you reclaim your intuition, because we all have that ability, right? We all have that ability. How do you remember how to do that? And it's really simply making time for yourself to connect with yourself. And for me, and for so many of the people that I've worked with, nature, again, like I'm going to be hammering that message home a lot because it's, especially if you have trouble meditating, which I did. I had a hard time just sitting in silent meditation. I don't anymore, but I did before. And this practice of just getting outside, unplugging from the computer, unplugging from the social media and all the noise that is happening around you, and just getting present in your natural environment, it helps you to make that connection. It's a bridge for you. And once you develop that connection and start tuning into it, you can start to build a relationship. You're building a relationship with yourself, is in essence what you're doing with your higher self. And over time, with any relationship that you nurture, trust grows.
Absolutely. And then it's the more you then trust it and then you take actions on that and you see the consequence of those actions and things
Yeah.
are working well and you're feeling good. And so it helps to strengthen that trust because you've got that evidence that you can
Yeah.
trust yourself.
If I may share just one little story that, because it can feel counterintuitive sometimes when your instincts, your inner wisdom guide you one way. Early in the pandemic, in 2020, as I was really starting to listen to my inner voice of wisdom, and after I decided that I was going to close my business and wrap that all up, one of the whispers of my soul guided me to sell all of our possessions and turn to a nomadic life. And I'm like, really? But my husband and I did that. And the most beautiful things over the last almost 5 years now, we've been living a nomadic lifestyle, has been unbelievable. The opportunities and the beauty and the gift and the various gifts that have kept coming to us in the most extraordinary ways. And I could not have planned this. But to think you're going to turn to a nomadic lifestyle while everybody is social distancing and wearing masks and you're going to give up your home, and it seems counterintuitive. And it was perhaps one of the best decisions of our lives.
That's where I think our thinking brain comes in and tries to tell you all the reasons why that's a bad idea.
Yeah,
And
right.
this is where there's so much, I guess, this is where the spirituality or the religion, the faith, the trust comes in to go, okay, let's just shush all of that and feel it. Does it feel like it's the right thing to do? And if it is, it's okay.
Yeah.
Let's just trust that's the right thing to do. And I love what you were saying before about getting back into that feeling, because I think that's something else that is piled on women. We're not allowed to be too emotional or
Mm.
hysterical or whatever label they want to call it. So it's something I think we learn early as well, to shut off our feelings, you know.
Yeah, and thank you so much for presencing that because that's such an important piece. And that is how we strengthen our connection to our inner wisdom by paying attention to our emotions. God is speaking to us. The universe is speaking to us through our emotions. This is our divine connection through our emotions. So pay attention to those emotions. Try to, when something, a little upset or something happens in the day, sit with it for a moment and figure out what's the emotion behind what happened and what are the messages that are there for you to pick up and learn from or lean into. There is so much intelligence in emotions, so we cannot suppress them. We need to celebrate them and really examine every little emotion that crops up for us. There's power in that.
Exactly. Absolutely, because there's no good and bad emotions. They're just emotions. And
Yeah.
they're there to let you know when you're going off the track. I was on a
Yeah.
Zoom earlier with someone and it kept flashing up on the screen. Something went wrong. And it was, that's weird. But we kept ignoring it. And then eventually we've both gone, oh, maybe I need to hop out and hop back in, because it had logged me out. Some things they will log you out after a certain amount of time has passed, and it's putting it on the screen. Something went wrong. We just go, no, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that.
Funny how we
But,
want to ignore those things, eh? Yeah.
so when I log down, log back in, as oh, yeah, that's what that's what it's trying to tell you. And for me, that's what our emotions are. They're doing is telling us, yeah, you're on the right track, or not, you've fallen off the edge a little bit, and you need to do something. You need to change something to
Right.
get back on track.
Yeah. Or not necessarily off track. You got to pay attention to what sparks joy in you too. This is key
Okay.
in finding purpose and direction of where your next role in life is, or the next thing for you to do is pay attention to what sparks joy in you. And it will be very telling if if you feel like you don't have purpose and you need to find it, this is key. What sparks joy? Just the littlest things. What sparks joy?
Yeah. Why is that so hard for us to do, Anita?
Great question. You know what I think why it's hard for us to do is we are a culture that celebrates being busy. And
Mm-hmm.
so we are so busy, we stop noticing, and then we lose the skill of noticing. So we got to stop being busy. We got to slow
Stop
down.
wearing it as a badge of honor.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is another reason why I'm an advocate for making a daily time to go for a walk in nature, because it forces you to put the screens away. And when you're in a beautiful environment, it really helps to just get you grounded to right here and right now.
And when you do that, though, because my thought, okay, I'll go down to the beach, I'll go for a walk, but I'll have headphones in and I'll be listening to music. So no,
Don't do that.
what is it? How do I get into nature in a way that I'm going to get the most benefit out of being in nature?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. I have a process, actually. It's a five-step process. And the first step is just simply getting outside. So that's your first step. Just get those walking boots on and get out the door. And the second step is to speak your gratitude. What are you grateful for? This just helps you quiet the noise and it helps you to get present, right? And from the smallest things to the comfy hiking shoes that you're wearing to the beautiful relationships you have or whatever, I just, whatever comes to mind, let it come out. And then the third step is to get connected with your environment by using all of your senses. What do you hear, see, smell, feel, taste in the air, even? Use all of your senses. And this helps to get you even further grounded. Now you're connecting with your environment and you're not thinking about the argument you had with your daughter this morning or the deadline that you've got tomorrow for your boss. You're just connecting with your environment. And then the next step is when you go inward, that's the looking inward part of the wisdom way, where you look inward and you ask, what is it that I want? Or what am I feeling? Like that's going back and tuning into the emotions. This is a good time to tune into how am I feeling? What's going on inside this beautiful body? And just listen to what bubbles up without judgment again, right? That's all you need to do is to get outside, speak your gratitude, connect with your environment, use all your senses, ask your question or check in with your body, and then listen without judgment. And then so much will be revealed for you. But I'm glad you brought up the thing about putting in the music. And I remember the first time with one of my clients, I said, okay, this is what you're gonna, I told her to do this, right? And she's, whoa, that's really uncomfortable. I'm like, why? And she's, I just don't want to be alone with my thoughts.
Yeah.
And I stopped. I'm like, wow. And we ended up getting into a really great conversation, which I've now had with many people that share this fear of being alone with their thoughts. So if that's you or anybody that's listening, I get it. I get it now.
I think
And
that'll be a lot of people, actually,
yeah,
especially the people who find it hard to just sit, even when you're in other people's company. They just got to talk. just say something. There's got to be noise. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's quite a common thing. So
yeah.
if anyone's watching this and that is them, they don't like to be with their thoughts, please continue.
Yeah, I recommend just practicing being in silence in small doses, like doing your dishes without the radio on, without a podcast in your ears, and just being with the dishes, noticing the dishes, enjoying the warmth of the water, and just being present. If that's 5 minutes, that's awesome. When you're
Yeah.
folding your laundry, try to do that in silence, just little bits at a time. And slowly you can start building that up. When you drive to work, if you drive to work, don't turn on the radio while you're in the car. Just get in the practice of noticing what's around you. You don't have to get lost in dark thoughts. Just pay attention to what's out and around you. Make that your focus. And slowly you will build a comfort in being in silence, and you can build on that, add more time for this time in silence. And I believe that time in nature is soothing for that as well, right? Because there's so much to notice when we're in nature. When I started to notice, I was going on these walks, all the same walk all the time. And yet every time I would notice something a little different on how the flowers change and the bushes they get bigger and then they shrink and just all these different things and the way the clouds move in the sky. There's so much to notice. And in the noticing, you're present to your environment and you're not being pulled into the dark thoughts. And I have to also say, if you do get pulled into, that's okay too, right? There's so much to the way through suffering, and this is not the podcast for that, so I won't go down this too far, but the way through suffering is acknowledging it, right? And then sitting with it. And it's not about letting it go. It is letting it go eventually, but we're so fixated on we gotta let go of it, let go. We're trying to push it away. But that causes it to prolong. When we can actually sit with our pain, with our hurt, then we can work through it so much faster. And there's so many lessons and wisdom that comes from the pain. I had some pain today. I was in tears today about something. And it's okay, Anita. There's learning here. There's gifts in this. I'm going to grow from this. It sucks. It so sucks being. And I know I'm going to grow from this.
Yeah.
And that growth comes from sitting with it. And we just got to do it in babies. I hate that word just because that makes it sound simple. It's never simple. It's work and it's
I
such
get what you mean, though. Yeah. And that's so wonderful that you said that because we don't allow ourselves the time or the space to feel sometimes. And we all know what suppressing emotions does and how that then comes out in this ugly, horrible thing. So just allow yourself. It's part of life. The highs and lows, the good, the bad, whatever you want to call it, it's all part of life. And allow yourself to feel it when it sucks and feel it when it's sad or it's painful, whatever it is. And then learn from it. There's always learnings. There's always learnings. And right there in that moment, you don't have to know what the learnings are. So just
exactly.
calm down a little bit, give yourself a little bit of space. It will come. But yeah, you don't have to rush through it. You can take it at
Exactly.
your pace. But yeah, but don't suppress it, don't rush it. Just
Allow.
notice is the word,
Yeah.
isn't it?
And what you said, creating the space that's exactly it. And that space happens in the silence, right?
Yeah.
Where you're not cramming podcasts and music and TV shows into your brain, where you're just allowing and don't try to do anything. Just be in the
Yeah.
stillness of
Just being
washing
still.
dishes or the stillness of folding laundry. You don't have to sit in meditation. Just be
Yeah.
in mental stillness. Yeah.
And that's such a great thing. I'm glad you said that because we think it has to be a certain way,
Mhm.
but just focusing on what you're doing, that's enough.
Yeah.
And
That's
you get
presence,
better at it.
right? That's how we build
Exactly.
presence. Yeah.
And it's these little things that we do because we're always present. We're always in the now doing something, but we're so often not in the now because we're in
Yeah.
the future or in the past, wherever we are. The more we can get back to just be where you are, focus on what you're doing, then it builds that muscle as well, doesn't it? So it becomes easier
100%. You said that beautifully.
without trying then, because when we try, I have to meditate for 20 minutes 3 times a day. Oh, that's hard. If I could just focus on what I'm doing, you're doing the same thing, aren't you?
Yeah.
But without realizing you're doing it.
Yeah, there's layers for sure. And this is one of the layers to building that sense of presence and being intentional. Like we're conscious. Let me use that word. We go through life in so much of what we do semi-consciously. Like we're not really paying attention to what we're doing. And so this practice of paying attention to doing the dishes, like being fully present with the soap buds and the warm water and whatnot, that is helping you to be conscious in this one moment. And if you only sustain that consciousness for one moment today, it might be two moments tomorrow, and it builds from there. And then you'll find that eventually you will be able to sit in silent meditation and you'll actually start craving it. I crave it now. Like I never used to. I want to do it because I just feel it so much peace when I'm in that space. And beautiful things come to me in that time as well. Not always, but a lot of the time. And I crave it now.
Anita, this has been a lovely conversation. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it. And you've given some amazing tips for people that they can just take away and start doing right now, which I think is awesome. Before we wrap it up, is there anything else that you would like to mention?
Yeah, if there is anybody watching this or listening to this that likes the idea of stepping into nature every day and wants a little bit of a nudge, a little bit of support along that journey, like a commitment partner, maybe, I created something. It's a 30-day nature challenge. It's this pretty much the same challenge my business coach gave me 5 years ago that completely transformed my life. And what you get is this is a free thing that I offer anybody. You don't have to be a client of mine to access this. And you will receive a daily email, a short email, with a beautiful visual, an inspiring quote, and some prompts, something to think about as you step away from your busy day and into nature. And I've also created with each piece, there's a really short audio piece that you are meant to put in and listen to. It's usually a minute, and then you unplug, put it away, and then get on with being in nature. So if you are interested in giving that nature challenge a shot, I'll make sure you have the link so you can share that in your show notes with your listeners.
Absolutely. We'll make sure those links are underneath the video. And I love that idea. It's get you set up, get out there, and it's final instruction. Now go. Take it out and off you go. Hear what I told you and then go and do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really good. It makes it look, I think sometimes it's nice to not have to think and not have to
100%.
figure out how do I do it, because it is such a simple thing to do, but we complicate stuff so much. So I think having that structure, it's going to help people absolutely to get out there and start taking that action, because everything is good in theory until you actually take the action, the benefits of it.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Lovely. Thank you so much, Anita. Again, it's been a wonderful conversation. I've really enjoyed it. And if anyone does want to contact you, there will be links underneath this video so they can connect with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Helen. So great connecting with you today.
What an insightful and inspiring conversation this has been. I would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to Anita for sharing her wisdom and her journey into the power of pausing, listening, and reconnecting with ourselves. Her story is a beautiful reminder that clarity, confidence, and joy are within reach when we make space for them. To all our listeners, if Anita's work has sparked something within you, take the next step and experience the magic for yourself by clicking on the links below. At Sacred You, we are committed to creating a space where women from all around the world can support, uplift, and empower each other. If you are looking for a supportive community that empowers you on your journey, join us. Be part of a global movement dedicated to self-discovery, transformation, and empowerment. Visit Sacred U's website to explore upcoming workshops, events, and all our community offerings. Check us out at www.sacredu, that's the letter U, .love. And as always, if this episode spoke to you, please subscribe to our podcast, share it with a friend, or even leave us a review. And if you are feeling called to reconnect with yourself, why not start Anita's 30-day nature challenge? Trust the whispers of your soul, take the leap, and embrace the journey ahead. Until next time, stay grounded, stay inspired, stay connected, and remember, you are sacred. From our heart to yours, thank you.